Annika Link, and I will guide you today through the event. During the next hour, we will discuss the role of digital enablers and the future of sustainability and learn new insights from the European Commission and the Global Enabling Sustainability Initiative. In the second part, innovative small businesses will tell us their stories about how they develop their sustainable ICT-based business. Before turning to our speakers, let me give you a bit more background on why we are launching this new SME focus group. At Digital SME, our main priority is to ensure that small and medium-sized enterprises in the digital sector can have a say in policy discussions at the European level. Our aim is to inform our constituency about topical debates which have a direct impact on their business. This new focus group will serve the purpose of building a bridge between policy and practice. It will bring together SMEs that are, on the one hand, digital or digitally based, and secondly, contribute to environmental sustainability. The discussion today comes right on time. COP26, the annual global climate conference, concluded on Saturday with mixed results. UN Chief Antonio Guterres himself called the outcome declaration, the Glasgow Climate Pact, an important step, but not enough. Technology has been playing an increasingly strong role in international environmental agreements over the past years, leading to the Breakthrough Agenda, an initiative launched at COP26 to make clean technologies and sustainable solutions the most affordable, accessible, and attractive option in each emitting sector globally before 2030. Digital technologies are an indispensable tool in the fight for more environmental, economic, and social sustainability. But in order to harness the innovation needed to save our planet, it is imperative that we strengthen the main source of innovation, which, in our opinion, are small and medium-sized enterprises. The Focus Group ICT Sustainability is the first SME-centered group that unites businesses from all across Europe with the goal of intensifying cooperation, facilitating funding, and verifying the SME-first nature of important initiatives, like, for instance, the European Green Digital Coalition or GeSI's Digital with Purpose framework. Members of the focus group will work closely with the European Green Digital Coalition. They will contribute and validate the Digital with Purpose SME framework by the Global Enabling Sustainability Initiative, and they will develop digital SMEs' positions on sustainability-related policy initiatives. Furthermore, the members will connect with other green enablers and demand-side companies on Digital SME's new working group platform and in dedicated networking events. We invite all interested SMEs to join the new focus group, and you can find the link to join in the chat, but also in the slides that will pop up at some point. With this short introduction, I would like to turn to our speakers now. We are joined today by Chris Tuppen from the Global Enabling Sustainability Initiative, and Mr. Ilias Iakovidis from the European Commission. Chris Tuppen, he's the chief architect behind the Digital with Purpose performance framework designed to measure how digital companies are acting responsibly and creating new sustainable solutions. Ilias Iakovidis is the advisor for societal challenges at the European Commission, DG Connect, coordinating the work related to green digital transformation. Chris, I would like to hand over to you now to start with your presentation, and then we'll enter into a more interactive discussion after that.
Very good. Thank you very much, Annika, and good morning, everyone. It's a very great pleasure to be with you this morning, and congratulations to the Alliance for launching this Sustainability Working Group today. I have a few slides to explain what Digital with Purpose is and its objectives, which I'll run through now. So if we could move to the next slide, please, Rosanna. Digital with Purpose. Can we move to the next slide? Excellent, thank you. So digital purpose is all about accelerating action on sustainability through digital technologies. It's designed to be ambitious. It looks forward to 2030. It aligns to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. It is all about companies who wish to take this journey and be a leader in the space. Companies from the very biggest in the tech world through to SMEs. Overall, it's about transforming the fortunes of the planet through digital technology. And if you go on the Digital with Purpose website, you can see a short video which has been produced by the famous film director Ridley Scott for us. The next slide explains a little bit about what it means to become a member of Digital with Purpose. The first thing that we look for is for the company to sign a pledge, and that pledge covers 4 commitments, which are shown down the right-hand side of the slide, to commit to supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals, to take and report concrete action, to embrace the principles of transparency, and perhaps most especially of all, develop and deploy digital technology with positive societal impact. Every year we ask the companies to submit a response to the Digital with Purpose performance framework, of which I'll explain a little more in a minute, and also to collaborate amongst each other to maximize the positive impact we can make as an industry on the SDGs, and also to mitigate the negative impacts that we inevitably have as well. The next slide illustrates what sits within the metrics of the performance framework. We have developed one set, an extensive set for the large multinational tech companies, and a much reduced smaller set for SMEs. There's 3 areas. The first area is about the reason that the company exists and the way in which it has defined its purpose relative to the SDGs, and also how it embodies sustainability into the governance processes within the organization. And then we have a section called Responsible Business, which is all around mitigating the negative impacts of the company and ensuring that the company is acting responsibly in its own operations and how it influences along its value chain as well. And here we have 5 themes. Trust, which is about digital trust and responsibility, looking at things like privacy, cybersecurity, and so on. Inclusion, which is diversity in the workplace and the way in which we are helping people around the world get online and use and apply ICT. Climate change, which is self-evident, I think. Circular economy around material flows, and supply chain looks at sort of working conditions in supply chains. So that's all about how you run the business, and then underneath that we have the solutions, how the company is contributing to sustainable development through the products and services it provides to its customers. And here we have 5 sub-themes. Companies can choose which ones they focus on: health and well-being, education, climate, natural capital, which is biodiversity, issues and human rights, which is things like supporting refugees through digital technology. The next slide illustrates the different levels of performance that can be recognized. So when a company joins Digital with Purpose, as soon as they've signed the pledge, then they will be awarded a committed badge, and they will then have up to a year in which to enter the annual cycle of performance metrics. And at that point, every year, we're aiming for the end of July, companies will have submitted their response to the metrics, and that will all be done on an online platform. And then the score that they receive will be assessed, and companies will be awarded one of these 3 badges: developing, pioneering, and diamond. And if they fail to achieve the minimum threshold for developing, then unfortunately we ask them to leave the movement. We are also going to ramp up expectations. So the thresholds and between the different categories will increase as we move towards 2030. This is about a race to the top. It is about achieving high levels of sustainability performance by the end of the decade. So companies will receive these badges, or rather certificates, we like to call them. The next slide then shows what you are able to do having received a certificate. These are labels that you can actually use in on your websites, on your reporting, and other aspects of your communication, so you can actively demonstrate your membership of Digital with Purpose, and also the level of sustainability performance that you have achieved. The final slide offers you the web address, and let me just close by saying that we have been road testing the SME metrics. We are delighted, I think, to have had one of the companies on the call today, Shift, who have been very kind in responding to this. If anyone else on the call is interested in having a go at responding to the draft metrics of SMEs, please contact the Alliance, and we can provide you with the draft metrics to have a look at and feedback. We are keen to wrap this up, so if you'd like to participate in that, please do so pretty rapidly now. But thank you very much, Anika.
Thank you very much, Chris. Indeed, we have been sharing this test, the road mapping with, or the road testing, so to say, with our members, and one of the companies in this call that we'll present later on has actually participated. But indeed, it is really important that SMEs are also involved in this process, because they may have a different approach that perhaps on this side of the developers of the framework is perhaps not as present, right? So it's really important to also get the feedback from SMEs to really see if this works for the companies. And that's also one of the purposes of the focus group. So we really want to work with GeSI to ensure that this framework really works for SMEs. But before going into this more in detail, I would like to bring in Ilias, who is here, who is joining us from the European Commission. He has also been initiating and, well, together with his colleague, initiating the European Green Digital Coalition. And we would like to know a bit more about what the rationale is behind this coalition. So Ilias, could you please explain a little bit about the coalition? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Happy to be here with you and looking forward to see some of the SMEs and the rationale also of the sustainability group. So the Green Digital Coalition came out about the same time as what Chris just presented, and the Digital with Purpose. So I'll give you the rationale. I'll also give you how different and how complementary these two initiatives are. Green Digital Coalition is all about realizing the potential of digital through a science-based, quantitative understanding of what digital does to the environment and climate. So the Green Digital Coalition is not a pledge monitoring scheme. It is a working group of companies that are willing to share data and knowledge that will calculate the net environmental impact of a specific digital solution. So for example, if we talk about precision farming, we will see, okay, what is the direct footprint of a digital solution that comprises of so many connected devices on the plants, in the soil, on the tractor, in the machinery, the GPS, the drones, the connectivity needed, the subscription to satellite services, all that has a footprint because you want to provide a service, but that service doesn't come from free because digital is not virtual. There's a lot of material and energy behind it. And then there will be a data on the enablement. So how much pesticides did we save? How much fertilizers over a year or two we saved? How much water? How much better we manage the water and the soil? All that is enablement. That enablement normally should be translated to CO2 equivalent, and then we will see what is the enablement, what is the direct footprint, and we hope to come up with the net positive effect of a given solution. So we will go in this working group through data, analyzing several solutions in many different sectors, such as energy networks, transport, manufacturing, agriculture, construction and buildings, smart cities, and other, maybe possibly whoever has data and would like to make that calculation. So once we have those calculations, what is the net benefit of digital? We will try to find out in per sector and also per ICT as a whole, what is the guideline? What should we be really looking at in order to ensure that a deployment of a given solution stays in a positive domain? Because there are rebound effects. There are rebound effects that we need to kind of capture from the beginning. There are the known, unknown rebound effects that we need to put in a design, sustainability by design. One example of such rebound effect, let me give you, for those of you that work with connected mobility and all the applications around transport, there is something called mobility as a service. And there are already pilots with electric cars that are never stopping. They're always moving. Today they have a driver. Tomorrow they'll be autonomous in the cities that will have the infrastructure for it. And they will be kind of circulating the centers of the town, taking people from A to B, where people will subscribe to it as a service. And of course, that sounds like very, more ecological than anything else, and owning a car and going around with your own car. Remember, own cars kind of are parked 92% of the time. So this mobility as a service definitely can create different business opportunities that are greener. Now, there is a rebound effect, and rebound is the following. You first need to make sure that people don't buy the car in addition to this mobility as a service. Second, you need to design this mobility as a service so that they don't cannibalize on the public transport. So whoever is in charge of the city planning has to make sure that you cover the last mile, you cover the time of the day where there is no public transport. So it has to be a synergy. And the last rebound effect, for example, is if people start putting objects into it. So they put an object into this electric car to send it to a friend across city, something that was not possible before, but will be possible now. all your net benefits go out of the window. So it's not only the technology that matters, it's how you deploy it. And that's the basic understanding that people still are struggling, because we have these two societies. One society says digital is a pollution. Whatever you do, it's bad for the environment. There are the solutionists. There is a society, mostly from industries, but also others. Just deploy 5G, deploy cloud services, deploy IoT everywhere, 50 billion of IoT, and the world will be a better place just because digital has only positive effects. And we know that this is not true either. So what is the science for us to determine which solution is environmentally positive, which solution benefits from sustainable finance, which solutions we should as a society promote and give support to? So that is about what the coalition is about, to finding those parameters that will make ICT positive.
So you want to be able basically to distinguish the facts from the fiction, to tell not only a story, but to know based on metrics, on a methodology, what is actually happening in the different sectors, and then to be able to steer also in the right direction.
Yes, and that's the common part with the digital as a purpose. We will both be working on these metrics, but then digital with purpose will try to give a label, will try to assess you as a company, while the digital coalition will work with the other sectors saying, guys, there is something for you, come and co-create, understand it and make it your own tool. Transport, agriculture, construction, smart city, mayors. See this as an opportunity for you to do green public procurements and develop this type of business. It's not about play. So that's where the complementary and differences come with the digital with purpose.
Okay, no, thank you so much for explaining that. I'm still a bit curious about how you actually see the role of SMEs and such a sustainability group in this whole setup. You think it's important that SMEs get involved, that they're part of this? How do you see that?
Yes, I think that the group is kind of come in a critical and a very important moment. I mean, the SMEs, they are basically not in a position to have a lot of resources to go and make those calculations. They are not in a position to have big budgets to try, to develop this kind of metrics and guidelines. But they should be there to proofread because they are the reality check. So the SMEs as a group would be able to give guidelines better on what is really greener and how to deploy these standards that are being developed, because standards are very tedious. And so the group can kind of digest and help the members to understand what is this guideline about green that the coalition has produced really saying, what is the feedback that we should give. They will be participating, so they'll be invited through Digital SME Alliance. The group will be invited to actually take active role in those calculations. I understand that it'll be difficult for them to participate in the work streams, but they as a group can digest, proofread, comment, and influence the work. And when it comes to guidelines, they will be the ones that have to make sense out of it, because they will be with their clients trying to deploy. And the group will be able to suggest where is the financing coming, how to transpose these standards and KPIs to daily business in the different sectors, and they will help each other in a way. But what is the most important is that the SMEs have something that nobody else has, and that is the flexibility and agility to change and to innovate in a business model. And that's all about green digital transition. Is about changing business models from quantity-driven, kind of non-circular business models to circular, sustainable business models. And SMEs are much faster in that. So in a way, what I would like to say, don't see only what digital can do for green, see green transition as opportunity for your business, because this is huge opportunity for digitally enabled new innovative services that we as a society need now in our economy.
Okay, so you see them really as center stage, as important players to manage this transition, to on the one hand to provide feedback, to be able to translate these terms to other companies, but then also to really bring innovative solutions to the market.
Two sides. I mean, 90% of our business is SMEs. So if we really want to cut emissions the way we want 50%, SMEs will be the driving force. Moreover, SMEs will be the ones that will enable the big companies. They will be the ecosystem of a big companies, providing them with a greener software hardware, but also be the front end on deploying in very special sectors these new innovative business models.
Okay, thank you so much, Ilias. I still want to talk a bit about the outcome of the COP26, but I thought maybe at this point we can bring in Chris just to talk a little bit about the Digital with Purpose movement, and then we can go into a discussion about the outcome of the COP26 with both of you. So, Chris, you're often called the architect or even mastermind behind GeSI's Digital with Purpose movement. Can you tell us what gave you the impetus behind designing it as a transformative framework rather than just a one-off certification? So as you explained, it's really a tool to support the transformation, but what is really the idea behind that? If you could elaborate a bit, that would be great.
Yes, well, thank you. There's lots of certificates out there. I don't know of another certificate in the sustainability space that is particularly focused around the digital world. And so this is unique in that respect. Many certificates that I've seen in the past have been assessing policies that the company has adopted as opposed to the performance of the company. So we are very much looking to assess performance as well. It is ambitious, so we have designed the metrics that they reflect what sustainability performance in 2030 of a leading company should look like. So it's unlikely that anyone might be achieving the highest marks now. And it has another unusual aspect to it, which is that it has a very strong focus around the solutions and the kind of solutions that Ilias was just describing. And I think one of the, I'd just like to sort of emphasize something that Ilias was saying, which is the complementarity between our two initiatives in a way. So the coalition is looking at solutions. A solution is very unlikely to be provided by one company. It will probably depend on data center services, on telecom services, maybe more than one sort of software application, different hardware, all provided by different companies. So it will be across company when you make an assessment of a solution, whereas what we're doing in Digital with Purpose is looking and reflecting on the specific company and providing them with an evaluation of their specific performance as a business, as opposed to a specific solution. But if they are participating within the coalition and doing all the kind of things that Ilias was describing, then they will score a good score in the DWP assessment. So I think they are very, very complementary between them.
So the two things are really complementary and connected. Still, sometimes we hear from smaller companies that they have, more limited resources, so they face more hurdles in general when it comes to adapting to new frameworks. And well, what do you see? Like, do you see some measures here that policymakers could implement or support to really speed up the transition of SMEs towards a greener business models? So I'll ask these questions to Chris first, but then maybe Ilias, you can also jump in.
Well, maybe first I question a little bit about the premise that SMEs are going to find it more difficult, for two reasons. One is that SMEs often have the ability to flex, to change, to innovate much more quickly, to adjust their business model much more quickly than a big company. does. Of course, in some areas, SMEs will not have the kind of influence, particularly along their supply chains, that big companies will have. So and this is the reason why we've sort of created a different set of metrics for SMEs. But if we think about it, in my lifetime, the likes of Apple and Google and so on have appeared from nowhere. They started as SMEs. So, if you can start with the aspiration to do the right contributions into society to help deliver against those sustainable development goals, what a great place to start. And maybe we'll see some future Apples and Googles coming out of the European group that have got this social enterprise aspect to them. I think from a policy point of view, we hear a lot about policy, economic stimulus packages of green and digital. And the question is that on the one hand green and on the other hand digital, or is it green through digital? And I think the more that the policymakers can turn us to be green through digital, everyone in the digital world will benefit from that. And that will really open up the new market opportunities that Ilias was describing.
Green through digital. Yes, Ilias, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I'm just, I just resonate that the agility and the possibility to change its business model, very much agree. But there is a fascination, I don't know why, even you hear it also from policymakers, that we are counting success in unicorns. Like if SME can become a unicorn, then we succeeded. Instead of looking at what is really the contribution to a triple win. And that can be SMEs that do the best. And the triple win is sustainability, 3 dimensions. Remember, the sustainability is economic, societal, social, and environmental dimension. You can do something for economy, and that's normally what we have been doing for decades as digital. We were the locomotive of the economy at the expense of social issues and environmental issues. For the last 10 years, we are now worried about capacity, digital skill, digital divide, inclusion. So we started understanding the social issues. But still, whatever we do, it's on the expense of the environment, the natural resource, emissions, whatever. So now we need to kind of come and understand this 3-dimensional world, which is really difficult for politicians, for companies, for everybody, and say, what is a triple win? And SMEs can do it faster, can do it more flexibly, can understand and do it. Big companies, it's like gigaton ship that needs to turn in the middle of Atlantic, takes years. Companies, it's an opportunity, I repeat. Green transition is an opportunity for those that understand what consumers want. That there is end of greenwashing. So we need to come down to some kind of metrics to prove, and we will have a legal instruments from the Commission coming out on green claims. You cannot just put a label, I'm sustainable, I'm green, I'm blue, or something. That will be finished. So there's a whole army of people looking at companies saying, no, this is not good. So I see it as an opportunity. Now I see in the chat room that people will say, wow, we'll be forced to do this, we'll be forced to join this and that ecosystems. Maybe there are economic dynamics, and we can discuss a long discussion that there will be some, tendencies that people will not be able to ignore. But as a commission, we try and we do our best through DSA and DMA and Data Act to create plain level fields for SMEs to be able to be there, to be visible, and not to be kind of pushed by the big platforms and the big players. But it's a bigger picture that you always have to have, but don't ever disassociate whatever I do for green from what I do from economy and social issues. Keep that in the same basket. That's what sustainability is about.
That's really a really important point. I think the triple win, as you called it. Indeed, we've seen large digital players also rise, maybe sometimes at the cost of some more social issues, like Chris mentioned, actually in the metrics, or I don't know if you would also call it metrics, but in the framework, the aspect of trust. And we'll have one of the companies that will present now that will be explaining how cybersecurity actually also plays a role for sustainability and how it's important in this context. So
if I may, this is critical. I mean, they play hand by hand. I have only understood that recently. Maybe you know better. So, and if you do, please send us whatever you have as the nexus between cybersecurity and sustainability, because I see that whatever solution we deploy has to have some kind of a minimum principle, minimum number of devices. Devices have a footprint. Minimum number of data exchanges have a footprint. Data storage has a footprint. So this minimum principle, can I do the best benefit with a minimum number of materials and energy consumption? And cybersecurity comes in and says, if you have too many connected devices, that's a vulnerability for cybersecurity. If you have too much of data processing here and there, or communications, that you are vulnerable for cyber. So cyber and minimal principle in digital comes hand in hand. But if you have other kind of nexus that I would like to know, that please do send it to us.
Perfect, we'll do so. I'd be very, very curious to hear also your views on the outcome of the COP26 this weekend. However, I think at this point it makes sense that we bring in the companies to present their solutions and their take, their stories on what they've been doing to combine digital and green. And then maybe we can have a discussion about the outcome just, towards the end. I hope that's okay for everyone. So I would like to call on stage our next speakers. So we have, yes, everyone is joining. Perfect. We have Carsten Waldek, who has founded a company called Shift with his brother, and he will explain that much better than I can. But they have try to really shift the approach we have when developing smartphones and making sure that they're modular, sustainable. I will hand over the floor to you in a second. I still want to also introduce Mr. Enrico Fomento, who is Senior Domain Specialist at, in the cybersecurity team at Zefriel. And as mentioned, he can tell us how cybersecurity and sustainability connect. And then we have Mr. Mustafa Begici, who is the Chief Executive Officer and founder at Nablet, and who has a very, very interesting case also about how you can develop new algorithms to save energy and data. So that would be really interesting to hear as well. Yeah, so please, Carsten, please go ahead, tell us your story, how you came up with your digital innovative company.
Thank you so much. You can hear me well, and the connection is good, I hope.
Yes, all good.
Please excuse my voice. I'm a little, just the winter part, but it's not COVID. But my voice is a little lower than normal. I would like to share a little bit with you about Shift. I don't know how many of you have already heard about it. Let me share my screen here so I can show you some slides. You can see the slide now with my brother and me.
Yes, we see it.
Great. It's not just me, it's a lot of people doing Shift, and my brother and me started this company together also with my father. He's retired already, but he is supporting us with it. And we are a little bit different than most tech companies that you would know. That is because we live on the countryside. So we are not in a big city, and we chose to go back to the countryside since we have internet here, and that's basically all we needed. And we love nature and we love space and freedom. So this is why we wanted to go back to the place where we grew up, basically. and started the company here. So this is our campus. It's old oak tree houses, Fachwerk, we call this in German, traditional houses that we preserve, and we are renovating one right now, or many of them actually. So the good thing is we don't have to pay any rent. The houses belong to us, and we can just create things there, and we love to preserve things. This is our main goal of the company. It's not just a mission statement. It's really the foundation for every decision that we take. So we want to do as much good as we can while doing as little damage as possible. So this is the main thing for us. And maybe you will understand a little bit more later how we mean this and how we do that. But mainly you would know us from being a company that builds smartphones, but we are not just building smartphones, we also build other technologies, like now detachable notebook. I will talk about this later, and also other categories of technology. But the thing is, when you're building technology, there's always the issues of what happens when this thing is broken, about the whole issue of electronic waste. The other thing is, how are the devices being built? How is the situation of the people creating the devices? And the other thing is, where do the materials come from? Those are the main three issues when you build technologies, basically. And so it's a lot of things that we have to tackle when we want to build things in a good way and do as much good as we can and as little harm as possible. So just for you to understand a little bit, so if we have to reduce the things we do into one word, this would be the word Wertschätzung. It's a German word, means something between to value something or respect, appreciate, or enjoy. It's all basically in one word. I didn't find an English word describing all of that in depth. So this is one is our team. So to value everybody who's working with us and for us. Not just the team in Germany that you've just seen, but also our little manufacturing site in China. We decided to have some part of the production in China because we want to reduce CO2 emissions. Otherwise, we would have to ship a whole lot of parts from all over the world, mainly Asia, to Germany to assemble it here, and that would have a much higher CO2 footprint than bringing it to a maximum compact and robust form over there and then just shipping it one time to where it really has to go. But that means, it doesn't mean that the manufacturing needs to be different from the German situation. So actually, it is very similar to our German working part. So it looks very much different from a manufacturing side that you would normally know from China. The other thing is the device itself is being designed by repair statistics. So we have learned over the last 7 years which parts are more likely to maybe break early or need to be exchanged. So we have designed the whole construction of the device different from other smartphones out there. So you can very deep down have a modular structure to remove parts really quickly according to repair statistics. And that means here you can see the main components, but we have way more. It's almost 30 modules or components. So you can have it very detailed and very fine down to small components also. So you don't have to change too large components and change a whole lot of working things together with not working things. And also all of this now talking about the supply chain, basically. We have the supply chain transparent and also published down to tier 3, which is was quite a big thing for us as Shift because we are a small company. It's kind of hard to do that. But we are very happy that down to tier 3, we have managed to do this and have a whole lot of good cooperation and things in place. But this is also limited, so we cannot have the whole supply chain completely transparent. It would have many more tiers, maybe like 10 tiers or so. So we have other methods also that we do for this part. And one thing is we call it maybe hug or embrace the supply chain. That means we go on the other side of the supply chain and do good things there where the money should have gone. Basically, if the whole supply chain would be completely transparent and healed, then where all the resources should have come to. And so we kind of embrace it and go to the other side and do more good there that we get out of the supply chain. That's another thing that we also do. So one work is working in Congo, but also some other areas where we do more good than we buy materials on the market. The other thing is, maybe you know this organization, Closing the Loop. We're together with Closing the Loop more electronic waste than we use materials. So we are basically electronic waste positive, if you want. So those are some examples that you can do, maybe just to inspire you what is possible or what can be done nowadays already. We are always looking for new ways to make things better. But the supply chain is kind of hard also for a small company, and also we don't buy so much material. So people think maybe it's a lot of things that we have been using, but it's actually very little amounts of things. But as we become bigger, of course, the responsibility also grows here. And the other thing is also very much we want to value the customer and the whole experience, because for us, selling a device is not just selling it, or we call it Vertrieb in Germany. We hate this word because it means like moving things away from you or chasing things away. So we want to have a relationship with the customer. And that's what we do. So one thing is right to repair, of course. You can open the device, warranty will not be void. You have tutorials explaining everything. You don't need tools to change the most important things. You can just open it and change it. And for the rest, there's a standard tool, and we do this on purpose because we don't want people to accidentally open the device on critical parts. And also you should watch a video before you do that. But the tool is included, and it's a standard Torx 3 tool or Phillips, you can choose. And the screws have the same length, the same size, so you cannot mix up screws. It's all the same things to make it very, very easy to repair. So even a kid or people not experienced can just repair themselves. It's easy to change components by repair statistics. I talked about this, but also you can return or upgrade your device anytime, and this is a lifetime thing. So we will buy back any Shift phone or any product from Shift anytime from you to use it again. So we have second life markets that we also have running, but we have not enough devices getting back until now. So we get basically everything back, but most people still use their device. So if you
maybe Carsten, sorry, I must say, because the other speakers still need a couple of minutes as well, yeah. And we're running a bit late. So if we can wrap it up, that would be great.
Yeah, that's good. So maybe you want to have a look at this. These are the 13 shift cycles. You can take a screenshot of it if you want, which describe the process a little bit, what we do. And it's a quite deep thing, but I can't talk too much about it. We can talk about it later, maybe. We also do this tablet, but the goal is to get towards, we call it universal computing. So there is no gap anymore between a tablet, a laptop, a phone, and mixed reality glasses, and so on. It's all using the same technology, but having different input-output devices that can just connect seamlessly. And this way we can reduce electronic waste way, way more, and it changes totally the way how we use electronic devices. Maybe I stop it here. This is our shifter network starting soon, so we connect people together. So if we don't want to have our phone in stores or shops, but we want to connect people worldwide to show devices, to repair devices, and to connect together in a digital platform. This is the way how we think it's good to distribute and also manage things without having a big CO2 overhead and other overheads. We also are willing to share this with others. So maybe that's the main thing. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much, Carsten. No, it's really interesting. Of course, you also get, inspired from this story, so others will get, some ideas. And I know that you're very inspired, so I didn't want to interrupt you, but for the sake of time, I would like to hand over to Enrico now to explain his perspective of cybersecurity and sustainability.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, Rosanna should present my slides. I ask her if she can share them. Okay, good. Well, can you put it in full screen, please? Excellent, perfect. Well, I work for a company that actually is a non-profit company and a research center at the same time also as me. Therefore, is a sort of mixed reality in a sense. One of the problems that we pose ourselves and then start to, let's say, explore with other, let's say, customers, because we are a center that is specialized in innovation services for other SMEs as well, is the problem of sustainability of cybersecurity. Well, could you go to the following slide? Yeah, we are talking about green computing in general. That is normally one thing that is split in different terms. Let's, for example, some of these: green use of IT system, green design, green disposal, like the previous presentation, or green reuse, I would say, and green manufacturing. But in the equation, there is something that is missing, in my opinion, our opinion. That is, next slide, please. That is the problem of sustainability of ICT technology in general, but especially the sustainability of cybersecurity. How? And the problem is how these things comes into the equation. And I mean, how can we consider the cybersecurity being sustainable? Because actually there is not a direct link between the cybersecurity, for example, services and their energy consumption. Because, for example, very efficient, let's say, cybersecurity solutions could consume nothing. For example, imposing a password policy or training persons do not click on mail links, malicious mail links, for example. This type of cybersecurity solutions are very effective and cost nothing in terms of energy. While on the other side, we have, for example, AI enhanced monitoring systems that instead consumes a lot because they are based on very complex AI model. Therefore, there is not a direct link between, let's say, efficacy or efficiency of cybersecurity solutions and energy consumption. The equation is more difficult, and say more, let's say, dimensions should be considered in this process. Next slide, please. So the point is that there is a lot of discussion on green IT. And the point is, how is the cybersecurity touched by this wave of greenish and sustainable things in general? So the point is from the green IT to the sustainable IT, and here the equation is relatively known and easy to understand, to the problem of the twin transition. That is one of the things that is much discussed in let's say, in the European strategy for transition to the green world. But the last point is how the cybersecurity can come into the game, because of course there is one problem on one side, that cybersecurity shouldn't be, let's say, relaxed or let's say became less effective because of sustainability issues. And the other part is that not all the cybersecurity measures implies sustainability impact. Next slide, please. Well, the point is, therefore, that we have some challenges, let's say. First of all, emerging technologies, of course. You know that cybersecurity is a sort of opportunistic trend. Let's say that as new technology appears, the new problems come just afterwards. So we have not only to develop things in order to be sustainable, but also to be cyber secure. And the point is how to, let's say, put these two points together, sustainable and cybersecurity at the same time. And the point is also that cyber criminals, let's say, since the advent of the pandemic, cybercrime boosted its activities, and the cyber criminals became stakeholders of the company and the information system. And with stakeholders, I mean that they are doing business with our same data in a different way, with different plans, but anyway, they are doing businesses with the same data that we use for our business, and the same data that we use to, let's say, drive towards a sort of sustainable IT solutions. So this is a problem in there. And therefore, the sustainability of cybersecurity, coming to the real point of the problem, is not in terms of energy-intensive solutions, but in terms of technology, economic costs, of the solutions, processes, human weight, for example, competencies required to sustain some specific roles, and in terms of knowledge. So what it means is that we need a sort of holistic approach that considers all these things together in one single view. Just to the next slide, please. Just keep this one so I recover you more time. Okay, here this is important one. That puts together the so-called total cost of ownerships in terms of sustainability of the cybersecurity as a complex process. And the different voices, they are one beside the other, but let's say are in parallel indeed, are the processes required to put the cybersecurity in place, like, for example, digital with a purpose, and so also cybersecurity with a purpose. The models of capacity planning, policy compliance. In terms of technologies, there is a problem of agility, maturity assessment, the conscious adoption of technologies, and what it means in terms of cybersecurity. For example, if I have to use an AI inside the cybersecurity systems, what does it mean in terms of sustainable data flows, of sustainable competencies found on the market and available in the company, and so on. And in terms of human element, that means keeping the humans in the loop and training them sustainably. In terms of competence that needs to be on the market. So this links to the problems of training, scaling, upscaling, problems that were already discussed in several working groups, even beside the Digital SME Alliance. And last but not least, the cost and economics. So the cost of a loss, the cost of a risk that becomes a real threat in terms of let's say, lost revenues, lost impacts, and so on. And of course, the problem of trustability and explainability of the cyber risk. And the whole things need to be, needs to be driven by risk. That is the key to drive the sustainability.
Enrico, I would also like to say that we don't have so many minutes left. So
yeah, it was the last one. I just finished. Yeah. You can leave this one or move to the next. It was the last one. Yes.
No, it looks like a really comprehensive framework. And thank you so much for explaining and introducing that. Musafer, I would like to hand over to you.
All right. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Right, so I'm Zafar. I'm the CEO, the founder and CEO of Nablet.
Maybe Mustafa, if you want to put it to presentation mode, perfect.
Okay, sorry. So basically, we had a company before, which we founded in 1995. And at that time, we have been doing video codecs, video compression. I'm going to go to that in a minute. We have been I would say some kind of a de facto standard in the in this field. We have implemented, for example, the Codecs for Adobe Flash. We made Netflix their first transcoder when they were going from DVD rental to streaming, or even we implemented transcoder for Google Video before they transitioned to YouTube. So we have been around in this field for many years. Today, what we are doing is we are focusing to create an all-in video processing platform that can run locally on a server or several servers and automatically scale into the cloud if this is required. And we are using also AI to eliminate the tasks that require a huge amount of human interaction. So why do we need these video codecs? So video, as it comes out of an image sensor in a camera, has a huge amount of data. It's around a gigabyte or even more per second. The compressed video, as it is received by your handheld or tablet or TV, has around 1.5 megabyte per second. So there's a huge compression rate. And to achieve this high compression ratio without a real loss in perceptual quality, it requires intensive calculation methods. And such algorithms, they usually run as a software on a CPU, on a Windows CPU, for example. But in recent years, CPU manufacturers like Intel or NVIDIA, they understood the importance of video transcoding, and they have implemented such algorithms into their GPUs. And these GPUs are usually multi-purpose GPUs, so you can basically run more or less any kind of software on those GPUs. And those GPUs, they can reduce the required processing time, in our case, by 70 to 80%. So why we need sustainable video processing? So if you look at the latest numbers, so video makes up about 80% of today's internet traffic. And this is, if you look at YouTube alone this year, up to date for until the 15th of November, about 2.6 trillion videos have been viewed just on YouTube. And this does not include any Netflix, any Disney, does not include any social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, or whatsoever. So just imagine if all the other providers also come into this equation, it's going to be a huge number. And the European footprint, the average footprint is about 55 gram carbon dioxide per watching 1 hour of video. So I'll come back to this again in a minute. So this is really quick, a typical video processing pipeline. So at the beginning, you have some kind of a video acquisition, like from a camera, from a handheld, or a satellite. Then it's transcoded into a special format. It's packaged, and after that, it goes into certain formats, and additional languages are added or closed captions. Then it comes to the storage, and after that, it's played out over a satellite or sent to a CDN, and distributed from there directly to your TV or to any of your devices like a tablet. And just the last piece here at the very end, this is the area where it takes the 55 grams carbon dioxide per watching hour. The full processing chain is for sure a multiple of that. So, so probably you could drive not just a 100-meter car for 1 hour watching video. It's probably much more than that. So we believe that the solution is highly optimized components, and we are not looking at a software or a hardware. It's basically the combination, as Ilias said, the minimum principle. I think it's shown here quite well. One of our partners, for example, is Contron. It's a German company. They make servers, high density servers, and they can replace, one of their products, which is the SimCloud. They can replace 18 traditional servers. If you see these small cassettes, and each of these cassettes basically contain 2 processing units, which can replace like 2 standard servers. So you need a lot less space, rack space. It requires less energy to operate, and finally also requires less energy for the cooling, which is a very, very big portion when you're running a data center. And on top of that, the GPUs, these servers have the GPUs that we need to run our server on. Another partner is Cloud and Heat. They run data centers that use direct hot water cooling for servers. Results in less cooling costs, and on top of that, they also do waste heat utilization as well, and it also reduces the cost to run the servers. I'm almost done. So we believe there are many ways on how sustainable technologies can be used in the media and entertainment industry where we work. And again, as Ilias said, it's the combination of many things that really make things sustainable. So our products, so I didn't really talk about our products, but basically our video processing makes use of these GPUs, and we put our algorithms into those GPUs to make them really highly efficient running on GPU, which lose less power than standard CPUs. And we believe there are many ways to how sustainable technologies can be used in our environment, in the entertainment industry. And we believe that by pushing, for example, public broadcasters as a start, to force some of these alternative technologies should be a good start.
Okay, Mustafa. Thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to bring in the other speakers, so Ilias and Chris, back on stage, as well as Carsten. I think what was really interesting now from the presentations was this combination of seeing like a sustainable business, a digital business and hardware. Then we saw the cybersecurity aspects, so of a specific approach on cybersecurity, combining trust and social aspects of sustainability. And then we had Mustafa talking about really, as he said, 82% of the sort of online traffic or online, what we do online is video processing. So we have a large footprint here as well. And what is really interesting is to connect that to what Ilias said about, the rebound effect. So how do we ensure that even when we have better technology that maybe saves more resources, that we don't, on the other hand, again use that efficiency we gained to consume even more. So maybe we don't have a lot of time left. So I actually would like to just give each of you, one more opportunity to make a statement. So linking perhaps what has been said, presented by the companies, and what we've learned about these different frameworks, approaches, and then we should wrap it up because we're short on time. So maybe I can start with you, Ilias, a final statement on what you think, how SMEs can contribute and help to limit climate change, and what you would give as a recommendation to the companies. Thank you.
I enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the chat, so you can see some of the issues there. What I would like to say, building on the 3 speakers from the SMEs, perfect examples of what, how big diverse opportunities green transition offers. First of all, if you think of climate change, get a little bit away from counting CO2 and tons of CO2. Climate change, more than anything, is a non-circularity of our economy. So what the shift, what Carsten proposed, and we already know each other well, is essential for ICT sector to become circular. That's the biggest problem of ICT sector. If you had to say, well, what is the footprint of ICT? Maybe 50% or even more is the non-circularity, is the material inefficiency. The other half is what the last speaker was talking about is, whatever we can do to reduce and to do smarter, more energy efficient viewing of videos or any type of a transmission, AI systems to put the 5G base stations to sleep, to make new kind of protocols to software that will diminish drastically the energy needed to do data processing, transmission, storage, and whatsoever. So there is a lot that you as digital SMEs can do to green the ICT sector. But that is making the 3% footprint 2.5, 2, and slowly going to 0. What is much more even powerful is to cut the emissions in transport, manufacturing, as I said, energy networks. And that's where the cybersecurity comes in. So if you really want to make sure that we digitize our electricity networks so we can squeeze more renewables in and do balancing of peaks, demands, and where we have availabilities, it has to be secure. Society will not let go if it's not secure. So the cybersecurity is part of anything, transport, energy networks, smart cities, and it has to go hand in hand with the enablement effect of digital. So 2-3 messages basically. Green is opportunity. See it as an opportunity. As you see, one of the chats that I said, all financing wants to go there, but they don't know what is sustainable. They don't know because they are confused. Is 5G in general sustainable? No. It has to be with the purpose of some solutions. And that's why we work with taxonomy. You can see actually what the Annex 1 of Taxonomy Delegated Act of the April adoption looks like, the section 8.2. So there is a lot of financing going into sustainability, and that's what their preferred finance is. And last, circularity and materials, maybe even more important than energy consumption of ICT. Try to see if you can work on that.
Thank you so much, Ilias. Thank you for these really good practical advice that you gave. Chris, I would like to give you the floor as well.
Thank you. Great examples from our 3 company contributors there. So thank you for those. And just sort of let me link that back to the COP as well, because for me, one of the things that came out of COP was that there is now, I think, a really increasing engagement between governments and business. I went to the Copenhagen COP, and business was sort of sidelined off to the side in Copenhagen. And what we saw in Glasgow was, I think, a recognition that governments and businesses need to work together. And within this coalition, we need the innovation and insights of SMEs as much as we need the big companies to play their part. I agree very much with Ilias's thoughts around the way in which there is a connection between the circular economy and the climate change. They're one of the same thing, looking at it in different ways, I think. The thing I took away particularly from the cybersecurity and the video streaming is a real need to understand across the complexity of the ICT infrastructure that we now have in place, through all the different applications that sit on cloud services and data centers, right through to the impacts associated with, for example, watching a film on your device at home. and to really understand where the big carbon footprints lie right along that chain of events, and I guess that the sort of the impacts associated with mobile devices would sit in that as well, and it is important that the ICT industry as a whole collaborates on understanding these things, so I think it's great that the SME community are really sort of thinking along these systemic aspects as much as individual sort of particular niched product areas. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Chris. It's good to hear that indeed businesses are not at the sideline, but that they are part of the conversation, and that's also what we're trying to do really with the focus group. So I think that's another confirmation that this comes at a good time. Carsten, your final statement.
Thank you. Yes, it's very encouraging to see what is happening and also to hear things. So we as Shift would be very willing to give feedback and also be in good communication with you, because I think it's really important that now in this time where a lot of things are changing, we call this time the shift. So it's maybe one of the times of the biggest change that we have ever had as human beings. And I think it's very important that this time is being used for deep change, not just some technical changes or, some other companies become a little more powerful or some individuals a little richer, but we really change systems from systems that have been mainly based on money and power. And we see all the things that have happened from that, and also a lot of disadvantages, to systems that mainly we call it valuistic systems, so valuism instead of capitalism, because capitalism reduces the whole value spectrum to just some little part of the value spectrum, and things like trust and relationships and many other things that are very important are kind of missed out in that. And we think it's very important to have a wider, bigger value system spectrum to get to very good systems for the future. And that then at the end will also solve a lot of other issues that we have, environmental and others. So we think that is maybe the core thing. And we think it's very important that people become aware what really makes them happy, because it's not really money and power. Once you have money and power, probably you will also not feel totally happy. And we as brothers, Sme and me, we decided that this is not what makes us happy. It's good relationships and it's enjoying nature and doing good things for the planet. That what really makes us happy. And so the company just grew out of that. So we didn't had a master plan how to do things. So we are totally willing on giving feedback on how to maybe change systems towards that kind. So this is the totally other edge. Before I talked about details, now it's more the big picture, and now comes the whole middle part. How can you apply something like that? And yeah, I think it's a very interesting time, and it's a very good time to live in. And we would be very happy to be in good communication, to do good work here together with you.
Thank you very much, Carsten. Enrico.
Yeah, okay. Well, from my point of view, I would say one thing, that the example of the recent disruptions imposed by COVID, like for example the change of in the working habits, like work from home and things like that, led to an increase of cybersecurity and cybercrime problems that is anyone is witnessing. And the problem is that the green IT risks to have the same impact, be another time, once in a lifetime opportunity for cyber criminals to exploit the systems, exploit the data, and exploit all the, let's say, systems that are going digital as a consequence of the green transition. And therefore, green without cybersecurity is a problem. But at the same time, it's a problem also the vice versa, the cybersecurity without green. And one of the things that became clear is that by this point of view, there is a sort of two directions connection between the green transition, the cybersecurity, of course, but also a complex relationships, because cybersecurity is not always directly impacting on the environment. So transforming the cybersecurity in something that is more sustainable is more complex things to be explored. And as Sheffield and in general in the research world is something that is worldwide to investigate more how to, let's say, transform in a sustainable way the entire cybersecurity chain.
Thank you, Enrique. Mustafa.
So when we showcase our first green solution together with Kontron, where you can save a lot of energy, which means a lot of money on trade shows, there was zero interest from anyone. And I think it's still the case, at least in our business. People just don't want to do it because it means more costs at the beginning. It means they could do a wrong decision. The decision makers don't want to make any mistakes, as we also see it in politics lately. So there is no willing to do any risk or to do any changes, and that's why I think there need to be really a push by the policymakers from the European community that they have to start with public broadcasters at least in our field with big corporations, that they have to use certain amount of green IT and green technology. Otherwise, no one's going to change it if this push doesn't come from the politics. That's my belief, because we have talked with so many broadcasters, and there's no willingness to do this. And I think to make this work, we need to develop interfaces between the different technologies, so that they can easily or easier interoperate with each other. I think this could be maybe one item of this group to see if there's something that we can work out.
Thank you so much. So with this, we're coming to an end of this launch event. If you who have been listening and who've been part of this discussion in the chat, but also just listening to what others have been saying, if you are interested in joining this discussion, if you want to contribute, if you're an innovative SME and you really want to work with us, please join the Focus Group ICT Sustainability. So the link to join us in the chat. I think my colleagues are probably putting it back, and you can also find it here on the slide. So you're really welcome to join, just to be part of the conversation. There's no specific need to bring, there's no sort of fixed criteria that you need to fulfill. It's about you being interested in this. You can join the group if you are already part of our network for free. I think if you're not yet part of our network, you may have to join one of our national or regional member associations, but this is not a big financial investment. It's becoming part of an SME network that will also help you to connect to others and to be represented at the regional, national level, but also at the European level through us. So you can click on this link and find out more. And with this, I would really like to thank the speakers for your very, very, very important insights that you shared, for giving us examples of how this can be done by providing us policy insights, giving us an overview, connecting the dots, and helping to build these bridges that we really need to drive this forward and to make sure that ICT can contribute to sustainability. But as was said, not only ICT or not sustainability as a one-dimensional thing, but really in its 3 dimensions. I'd also like to thank my colleagues, especially Moritz, who has been setting up the group behind the scenes, and my colleague Rosanna, who is organizing this event, and many others for us. So thank you very much for this. And with this, I would like to close the discussion here and look forward to engaging with you in the future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.